Kereisos Daf Chav Ches, the final daf in our Masechta. Elazar says a halacha. If a person is tamei and he walks into the Beis Hamikdash, he must bring a carbon oil a variable carbon depending how wealthy he is. Wealthy people bring a behema, an animal. Not that wealthy bring birds, and poor bring flour. If a person was wealthy and he designated birds instead of an animal, according to Elazar, he's not yotzeh. Therefore, these birds become pushed off forever. He can never use them. So even in a case where the wealthy person became poor, it's too late. He can't use those birds. He holds yesh dichui b'balchai, even though it's a living thing, you could push it off forever. There's dichui b'damim, even though these birds only attained gedushas damim and not gedushas guf, they're pushed off forever. And he holds yesh dichui mi'ikara, that even in a situation where there was never a chance for the gedusha to be chal, you could also push it off forever. However, Rav Chizda holds that a wealthy person who brings birds is yaitza. There's only one exception to the rule: a metzora who's wealthy cannot bring birds, and that's exeris hakasa. According to everybody, a poor person who decides to bring a carbon of the wealthy, which is a behema, is yaitza. We find a similar machlokes by a carbon pesach, which must be brought from a male sheep or goat, and a person decides to designate a female sheep. This female sheep becomes dachui, pushed off forever, and even her offspring, which might be a zachar, cannot be brought as a carbon pesach. Reb Shimon holds you could bring it as a carbon pesach because Reb Shimon holds ein dichui. He also holds a halacha by Yom Kippur where you bring one goat for azazel, you push it off a cliff, the other goat you shecht. What happens if the one that is supposed to be shechted dies? Says Reb Shimon, I can take the one azazel and switch his designation and shecht it because I don't need a goyrel, says Reb Shimon, and there's no dichui, it wasn't pushed off. Tanakama holds only through a goyrel can you decide which one is shechted and which one goes la'azazel. This is that we found in a brayso that says that if a person set aside money for his birds and later on he became wealthy and then he made a mistake, he thought that wealthy people also bring birds, so he said this part of the money should go for a oila and this part of the money should go for a chatas. Says the brayso that the money that goes for a chatas can be used to buy an animal for the rich person, but not the money that goes for an oila. We must say, says Rebbe Lazar, that this brayso is a mistake, and what the brayso means to say is that since a rich person can't designate birds, according to Rebbe Lazar, so we must say that it's talking about beforehand when he was mafresh, when he decided this should go for oila, this should go for chatos, that's like as if he just purchased it, and that's why it has a designation. According to Reb Chaga, it's talking about he bought a bird with the money. So if he bought a chatas bird, then the leftover money for oila, it cannot be used for his animal because it's already designated as an oila. But if he bought an oila bird or that set aside money for his oila, then he could use the money set aside for the chatas for his behema. Says the Mishnah. And usually throughout the Torah, the word sheep comes before goat. Don't say that sheep are considered better, and if somebody has to bring a carbon, he should use sheep and not goats. They're equal. The same thing is that by kibbud av v'em, you have to be mechabed your father and your mother equally. Unless they are married, in that case, the mother has to be mechabed her husband. So since she has to be mechabed her husband, then the son should be mechabed the father because both of them have to be mechabed the father. We find the same halacha by a rebbe. If somebody was zeicha to learn Torah from somebody, roiv terasai, you must be mechabed him, the rebbe, before you mechabed your father because your father is also mechuyev to be mechabed him. Says the Mishnah that the Azara had 4 cries, screams. One of them was that the sons of Eli should leave, the Azara, Chafni, Pinchas, who were Metamed Heichal. Second one was that Yochanan ben Advai, who was the Talmud of Mikai, should come in and fill his stomach with Chatzei Shemayim. As the Mishnah says, that he used to eat for dessert 40 saw of young birds, meaning he was so generous, he had so many guests that he had that many birds in his house to feed people. And the Mishnah says that in his times there was never the problem of noisar leftover meat because he always had people to feed. The third one was that Yishmael ben Pikai, who was the Talmud of Pinchas, should come in and perform and become a Kohen Gadol. And the fourth one was the Azara scream out, take out Yisachar Ishkar Bar Kai, who gives himself kavod and is mevaza the kachim. What would he do? He would wear a sort of gloves, he would put silk on his hands so that his hands don't touch the kachim, and that's a bezayim for the kachim. What was his punishment? Mar says that the king Yani had an argument with his wife. What tastes better, lamb or goat meat? And they said, let's bring in this Pinchas, who's a Kohen Gadol, he understands about meat. And as the king was talking, he went like this with his hand. He said, he did some sort of gesture that was a bizarre to the king. So the king said, get him out of here and cut off his right hand. Now Pinchas didn't want his right hand to be cut off because that's what he does avodah with. So he bribed the hand chopper guy. He gave him money so that he shouldn't cut off his right hand, he should cut off his left hand. When the king found out, the king cut off his right hand as well, and that was his punishment. Says Rav Yosef, Baruch Rachmana, Shenisha, that he gave him a punishment in this world, and therefore he saved himself in the world to come. And with that, we're reciting the Masechta, Omar Rabbi Lazar Rabbi Chanina, Talmid Chamar B'Shem Ba'olam, Shenem V'Chobanayich, Lemudei Hashem, Rav Shalom Banoich, Al Tikri Banoich, Ela Banoich. It's an extra word, Banoich, that we say that the builders of the world are those who learn Torah. By the way, there are 4 Masechtas that finish with this, and the gematria, or the way to remember it, is the word Banoich. Brachas, Nazir, Yevamis, and our Masechta Kereisos, Hadrun Allah Hamevi Asham, Uslikala Masechtas Kereisos Mazel Tov.